Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I've got my new friend Fred here, and we met online. Here's your sweet and low. We met online, and turns out that he's basically a neighbor of me. You live in Darwin, which is like, what, 5 kilometers from where I live, you know? And so I can't believe we haven't met before, but we finally run into each other. So thanks so much for sitting down and talking to me. And where'd you grow up at?
In Philly, inner city Philly, but I'm sort of a city kid playing street games, dead man's box, whatever, stickball in Philly.
So you grew up in what, the 1940s, 50s?
I was born in 46, and I had a big park. Those people who know Philly, Fairmount Park was set out by the founders of Philadelphia. Huge park with a river, a creek, the Wissahickon and the Schuylkill. Used to ditch school, go fishing down a Boathouse Row, and everybody sees the landmark probably of the art museum and then where rocky steps lead up. But I was influenced by my city. They say that being a Philadelphian, you could take a Philadelphian anywhere in the world, but you can't take the Philadelphian out of the guy. So no matter what, I meet people, whether in Europe or South America, there's something about that city. I don't know.
A lot of culture, a lot of great food.
Yeah, we're in the shadow of New York City and Washington. We're midway between those two places that, people go to Washington and people go to New York. Sometimes they don't want to know about the historic background of Philly.
Was Philadelphia used to be the capital before Washington, D.C.?
At one time, it was.
I vaguely remembered that from somewhere in high school.
The State House is Independence Hall, that was the State House of PA. So, and it has a different background because William Penn got all of Pennsylvania and set up shop there in Philly. So the King of England owed his dad a bunch of money and paid him off by giving him Pennsylvania, Pennswood. Yeah.
I didn't know that. And so you graduated from high school, then what did you do?
Well, before I graduated, I was involved in hitchhiking. Actually, Mark, I did something stupid when I was 7. My buddy and I were throwing mud balls at moving cars. It had changed my life when I was 7. I just turned 7, and I hit a woman in the eye with a mud ball. Oh, no. Luckily, by the grace of God, I guess, because Wills Eye Hospital, one of the top eye hospitals on earth, she was rushed to, they saved her eye, and when it came up, the hearing and so forth, charges against me for assault and battery were dropped. But I was arrested, thrown in a little cell, grilled.
At 7 years old?
At 7. There was no such thing as, the police getting off of treating possible criminals. They grilled me good, put me in a little jail with bars. It was a wooden door. My mother came 3 hours later, and that changed my life in a way because I realized me being a little kid, I could have an effect as an older person on the life of a person. So I learned about responsibility. So when I was a teenager, later, I didn't involve myself in antisocial behavior that's stupid, endangering.
Yeah, a lot of kids do stupid stuff.
Yeah, some of my friends did.
Yeah, I did too,
but I was an adventurous kid, and I had money in my pocket because after school when I was 10, I had a newspaper stand a block away. The papers would be delivered to my my row house home, like see row houses in Philly. Anybody seen Rocky sees row houses. Okay, so I had one of those I grew up in. And because I amassed like 123 customers, made a $1.23 a day, I had money. So a pinball machine became my best friend. My buddies, and we did what kids of our generation, it snows, we shovel snow from the pavements.
That's what I did to make money. I should get $4 for doing somebody's driveway.
Right, kids found opportunities because I don't think we were given a lot of stuff. And, our parents were veterans of World War II. They went through the Depression. Some of the kids, I guess, parents didn't want them to, go through the hardships of learning the value of a dollar so much, and they went to the suburbs when they could.
Did you get an allowance when you were a kid, or you just earned your own money?
My dad once in a while would give me a quarter. My dad lived actually upstate when I was 3 in anthracite country, so I know Pottsville area.
What did your father do?
He rebuilt a coal breaker where I used to climb on the catwalks 5 stories up thinking I'm Superman walking around like iron workers do. I was didn't know the mortality scene so much, and play on slag, learn how to ice skate on the frozen pond in the winter with those guys. But my mother said being in Philadelphia provided more opportunity for my older brother and my older sister. So my dad used to come in on the weekend, or we go up there on other weekends to visit him. So that's what he did for practically after age 3. So I knew the countryside because upstate PA, anthracite, that's been in a wet mine. And after the war, we exported hard coal, which is the cleanest burning coal, come out of anthracite to Europe and so forth. So I knew that, and I grew up around the Schuylkill River and fished and did school. And when they put in the I-76, the Schuylkill Expressway, part of Eisenhower's, interstate system of Philly, we used to jump on the steamrollers, the big earthwing equipment, and play like we were riding those along. I knew the blackberry patches to pick. My older brother used to take me sledding down the sledding hills. And the Robin Hood Dell, which in the summer, the Philadelphia Orchestra members would form the orchestra. They had 18 free concerts, and our house was located that at night as a little kid. I would hear the symphonies and hear the opera singers. Wow. And my brother was into swing music and jazz, so that's my sensibility music, and I became a percussionist later because I couldn't sing doo-wop like Philly singers used to do. South Philly's known for Frankie Avalon and all the Fabian and so forth. But I'm from North Philly, and we didn't have everybody in Philly in the neighborhoods would do doo-wop in the 50s, and I grabbed some bongo drums trying to keep the rhythm. So later I kept at it and became a percussionist as an avocation. I didn't pay my dues like the musicians that I would later play with.
Were you self-taught?
I actually had some lessons when I got to California. I hitchhiked ultimately when I was 16, first to California, and saw the curves on the beach. They were a lot more interesting than the curves in my algebra, trigonometry, calculus book. Told my hitchhiking buddy, man, day after I graduated high school, I'd be out on the coast living life, there. So after a couple years, I took some lessons at Drum City. It's Roy Hart, the jazz drummer's store, and met a guy who was actually came up from Mexico City. He was from Tony Adami, was my first percussionist. He taught me, he didn't know Cuban technique, which I learned later. He taught me hand over hand conga drumming.
I remember Ricky Ricardo and the drums.
No, well, yeah.
I love that sound.
He led a great
Santana
band.
had him too. Santana,
yeah, Carlos
that
Santana.
Sound. I love that sound.
My compadre, fellow drummer, Johnny Conga. He played with Carlos Santana when he was up in.
Yeah, that's my favorite band.
In Washington State. Yeah. Oh well, he's the holy grail of Latin rock.
Yeah. So you grew up in the '60s. You graduated from high school. It's in the '60s. So Vietnam's taken off. So I imagine a bunch of your friends are getting drafted.
Oh,
I mean, I had
yeah.
a draft card. I'm assuming you
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I graduated high school in '74. I think the war ended in '75. And so, did you come close to getting drafted, or?
Well, actually, yeah, I was 1A.
What does that mean?
1A is draftable. You're
Okay.
you're ready to go unless something, you're found out to be flat-footed. 4F,
Yeah.
different deferments. 2S is student when you're attending college, so forth, and 1Y is on hold. Well, so I was 1A. It was November '67. I was married in the summer. Went on a honeymoon.
Well, you were married young, huh?
On my birthday, yeah. And
18
my
you're
wife's
18 years
birthday
old?
was the next day.
So 18 years old, you were married?
I was 21 birthday.
Oh, 21, okay.
21. So I was 21. My wife, she just turned 19. I just turned 21. We went to Mexico on our motorcycle, which broke down. That's another adventure. But we came back and we learned that we were going to be parents. So she looks at the refrigerator and says, "What are you going to do? 9 months we're going to be parents. That refrigerator's got to be pretty full, And I have been in business and put myself through a year and a half of college at Santa Monica City College, and so I was working at a rubber stamp company in Santa Monica, and I went down for my induction in November. I was still 20. I was just turned 21, and they said, "Well, we're deferring you, and you're going to get a family deferment. And if we need you, we know where you'll be. But go home and fend for your family." So that's what I did. So I started a business with $25 in November 29th, 1967. And that was, believe it or not, a counterculture product, incense. And why incense? Because back before my wife and I, my first wife, got married, we had the first psychedelic shop in Santa Monica called the God's Eye.
Oh, yeah.
And the very first person from the hood, it opened in June 1st and closed when we got married, looks around at our stock, a few blacklight posters, some incense, and she is an artist who won awards for her art. She was making jewelry, earrings, and a person, there's not many students in June, looks around, says, "How do you pay the rent around?" Well, the fact was we couldn't. We got $33 as receipts, and our rent was $125 per month. So we had paid first and last and had some stuff to sell. So she worked for A&W Root Beer as a car hop. And we didn't have much of all. We decided, hey, now's the time to get married. We got married in the backyard of a good friend in West LA. And I had this motorcycle, a single 150cc matchless, which is a rare kind of bike, not worth anything, but we had it and decided to go to Mexico and find some peyote. It's times, those days down in San Luis Potosí. So that didn't work out too well. I came back with a conga drum though, after our parents bailed us out. They put us up in their place for a little while. And then, life was on hold. Vietnam was beckoning. They didn't take me. So I started this business. They added the ashes of the failure of the head shop, came the idea to popularize incense in the West. So I said, what kind of fragrances do our society like? Not the heavy scents of the Far East, jasmine, musk, and so on. And nearly everybody likes the smell of fresh strawberries. So I was on a mission to make the first strawberry incense, and fill a room up with something that people could relate to. And then the idea, I said, well, look at Baskin and Robbins, 31 flavors. I could go and sort of mimic them, but for the air. For the there was Airwick was around, some sprays, but nothing really. There was scented candles. So with that, I had imported some incense from India. I nickeled and dimed everybody to pay the $125 airway bill because I had sent to India like $10, and I got a package that cost me $125. So I paid them off. Got that. The wife did a label. We took it to someone with a mimeograph machine, and literally pasted it onto mailing tubes, one inch mailing tubes, and went out to head shops at the time, and turned that into $1,000 cash. So I said, "Hey, we're on our way," and so the business constantly. But I ran out of the funds to. I couldn't float the amount of incense from India that I needed because I was still bringing that in. So I was making with an extruding tube. I was extruding botanicals mixed with wood and charcoal in our apartment and letting them dry on screens that I had found in back of window supply and window replacement places in the alleyway. So they were our drying racks. And we put those in boxes, little jewelry boxes that we bought down in LA, slapped on a label and went out and basically sold them for cash. And then I ordered every Yellow Pages in America and started writing a 5% discount for cash with order. That funded the growth. And then I got smart enough, I guess, through experience, wisdom came. And the business grew until next year, the time I was doing $20,000 a month out of a double garage. Yeah, it happened fast because my competition also came a year later. It was the Hare Krishnas. Everybody knows who the Hare Krishnas were.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they're still around, but they copied me and made stick incense like I was.
Walk up to you and give you the free book, the Bhagavad Gita.
And they had all these what I call starry-eyed idealists, many of them, who worked for them for free. They had their place in Culver City, which is, I was in West LA, a stone's throw, and they started out. So, never mind. I don't look at the competition. I knew what I did, people liked my product, and I wanted to keep improving it. And I had kids like myself that were going home after school, be packers, and they were making $12, $15 a week packing after school for a couple hours out of my double garage. This is in the 60s, 60, 68, 69. Then I had to move to a 5,000 square foot facility, 10,000 square foot, 15, so forth and so on over the years. And of course, competition came from everywhere. I couldn't patent the product, so I kept my trade secrets. I became very good with my sense of smell and worked with companies like IFF, which didn't really do a lot for me because they wanted established businesses. But the other companies that were based in the fragrance field in the U.S., ultimately I gave them millions and millions and millions of dollars of business over 38 years that I operated.
38 years, wow.
38 years, yeah. We branched out into potpourri, car air fresheners. We competed with the Little Trees. And so I attended the APAA shows in Chicago. That was the automotive aftermarket shows. And then late in 1992, I got into making patented lures to bring in deer, elk, and other game in the U.S. It was the shot product of the year 1992 at the big hunting and gun show in Las Vegas. And someone came to me who was a hunter. My dad incidentally was a deer hunter, pheasant, up in PA, so I knew hunting and was familiar with weapons. He came to me and said, well, I got turned down by one of your competitors to formulate synthetic urine for attract females, rutting deer. So I developed that with the help of a lot of perfumers that I had a lot of faith in, who had the abilities and take the direction. And after 7 months working with him in samples and doing field testing, we came up with a product that won the 1992 Shot Product of the Year. And so we made a run with that, and that went off patent 19 years later. I got called back by the guy originally went with that. He became a multimillionaire. He bought a hunting reserve down in Texas, but he had some bad luck, had heart problems, fell off the ladder, his wife left, he got screwed. So when he reached out to me and said, I've got the product, everybody in the hunting field knows Tinks, Pro Bass, Cabela's, they were customers. So they got, I came back in 16, 17 to do a little business, make product with them. And anyway, some problems occurred, and I ceased that in 18, I think. And, in business, all kinds of things happen. You meet the same people up the ladder, going down the ladder. Right. So what kept me in business, and I was going to merge with my supplier, the largest potpourri botanical supplier on the planet. They were doing $75 million out of India, supplying the potpourri market. And we were supposed to merge with them, and at the 11th hour, 59th minute, it didn't happen. So in a couple of years prior, a couple of my large supermarket feeders customer went into into bankruptcy. And that was horrible. So after I got a bout of angina, I said, at 59, I had it. I'm going to close the doors to my business. I'll be a consultant or come back and work with people who want to do anything in the fragrance field that I had background in. And because my wife, who I met, my third wife, I'd been married twice before. I got custody of my daughter, my only kid. She was 4 and I was 25 when her mom and I split. And in California, that was unheard of. But, it's my destiny, so to speak. And when you interviewed Mark, the fellow that raised 3 kids, I said, my hat is off to any father. We're not expected to be able to raise kids. After all, we're breadwinners. We're not the nurturing type. We have the patience. Hey, Daddy, what's the stars do? Hey, Daddy, we have all the answers when they're 4 years old, let alone when they're 16. When they know everything, they don't ask us anymore, Mark. Right. All of us boys, we rebel against our parents. We for the most part, the thing that keeps us boys with our dads usually is the sports, hunting, fishing, something that we do. Model airplane flying, something like that. The Boy Scouts, some activities. So my heart is both in the country, being raised, and having that country boy city, big city. So it's split. I can appreciate the outdoors. I went backpacking practically 7-8 years in the 80s into the 90s with my nephews. Even my niece went in the High Sierra every year to Yosemite and then to the Grand Canyon with the boys. And so I needed a son in a way, but things didn't work out even in second marriage, to have a child. So I borrowed my brother's boys, took one of them down to Costa Rica for 10 days, rented an old Land Cruiser, going on adventures.
So when you shut down your business, I'm assuming you were financially stable. You could kind of do what you wanted, huh? Almost retired at a young age, right?
I didn't have the millions that some.
Yeah.
I was comfortable, and but remember, you know, I still wanted to be in the States, and back and forth at the time. I wasn't sure. My wife bought this property in '04 on the beach in Mayon-Tubig. So she calls me up, hey, I'm over here visiting my dad, you know.
Over here in the Philippines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's, he was he was suffering Alzheimer's, and so he didn't have long. And while he still recognized his daughter, he was elderly, 91, 92.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, there's longevity that runs in her family. Although she lost her mom to an aneurysm when she was 25, out of college, and a court translator down in her city. She's graduated in business and speaks 7 different dialects of the Philippines, English and Spanish. So, you know, said a classmate over at Suleiman University, which is America's first Asian university, all in Asia, 1901. So she said, I have an opportunity to buy this property. It's a good deal. They need the money. Should I buy it as an investment? I said, whatever. She did. So next year I was curious. I went there, sat on a chair at the beach. The land was being cleared, a little native
Nipa hut?
yeah, no, it was more than that. An architect actually did. Anyway, it was a one-room beach house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all out of coconut wood, lumber, and had a metal roof. So I'm sitting there, and her friends are all camped out in tents all over the property. It's like a beautiful location. I'm looking at Apple Island. It's a protected sanctuary. I say, you know what? That's it. You know, I'm coming here. I'm not going to Costa Rica. I'm not going to battle and continue in business and stay in the U.S. I said I had enough of that. I'm in paradise. I recognize I'm paradise. My wife, you know, she is connected with the old families here. I find out that in 1810, her family actually managed or administrated under the Spanish of this town we call Dumaguete.
Yeah.
And like, you know, there was only 4 or 5 million Filipinos here in 1900. Now there's 110.
Wow.
So, you know, land gets divided. That's why I think the poverty that we see all over the Philippines is because of population growth, city going to the big cities and selling off their lands. Okay, that's a primary reason that's you know, slams the door on why the Philippines' greatest export is people.
Yeah, it is.
You know, nursing number one.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the degree that is probably the cheapest to get in a university system here. And because of the society, you know, traveling 50 countries, mostly on business, and coming across, I speak pretty good Spanish to get around anywhere. I did have proficiency in Portuguese in Brazil. I was tutored by UCLA's different departments of Portuguese, Spanish, before I went to South America and tried to export our products and so forth and so on. So, you know, I have a more worldly view than some, you know, because let's face it, in the U.S., you don't need to leave the country. We have everything in the U.S.
It's true.
Everything. We have such a beautiful, beautiful country, and we have good people.
We do.
Most everybody that we meet in America, they're hospital. They might have not the time they share, the Filipino people share whatever they have
They
under
do.
any circumstances. They share. They may not have much, and more affluent people, once you meet them and you demonstrate, you know, you have to be trustworthy to gain people's trust. You have to demonstrate that. Well, my brother says on the internet, he's a computer guy, trust but verify everything. So the Filipino culture is a chill society. It's non-confrontational. It's always around. You don't confront people here and get in an argument. It's
No.
not the thing to do here.
Yeah.
You don't know if a guy looks like he's nobody that lives on a property and you stick a telephone pole like a neighbor did in mine too big. You don't know what family, the big old families.
Yeah.
They're still connected. You might not have funds,
Yeah.
but they're well respected within those communities. So you don't, it's like in the U.S., you don't create problems for yourself because of ignorance.
Right.
You treat everybody with respect no matter who they are, and you get it back.
That's right,
It's
you
as
do.
simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, Rodney King, after his terrible experience, you know, what stands in my mind, he's at a press conference or whatever. He says, why can't us folks just get along?
Yeah, I remember that.
Why can't we get along,
Yeah.
man? Hey, study history, and we might have some answers of why, you know.
I think basically here in the Philippines, that's what I've seen. Everybody gets along. You know, if you're nice to people and smile and you're polite, it's like you get that back. And I think it rubs off on the foreigners that come here too, because they see how the Filipinos are, how they're non-confrontational, and it's actually against the law to like to yell at somebody in public here. And I think that that's one reason that, you know, everybody kind of likes being here. It's just non-confrontational and friendly and safe. And
I found this is the friendliest country, the most polite people that I've ever been to.
I agree. Yeah, same for me. And I've been around too.
And all the guys around the world, they have different passions. You know, we all have different passions that we have to have something, passion, or we're
Yeah.
just existing. We're not living.
Right.
Without passion, man, it's a rut. My definition of a rut is a coffin knocked out on the
Yeah.
ends. So when we got here, you know, my wife had been, and I had been sending gloves, safety equipment for Olympic-style boxing, you know, to the Philippines to help the Amateur Boxing Association of Negros Oriental since '92, because we got involved in the U.S. with amateur boxing. Walked into a gym, and we had the result of it. We have more champions come out of that gym, 2 Olympians in '96. Because 2 people walked into a place and saw that a program was in trouble, city run in Oxnard, California, La Colonia, and we knew the kids, see them grow up into world champions. Fernando Vargas, Roberto Garcia, Robert Garcia, 2-time Coach of the Year, right after Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao, and we said, you know, let's get involved in boxing here. So we joined the society, the Abano here. We went to Ormoc, where a national certification was done. We had been certified at Colorado Springs as clinicians and been very involved in boxing, not only in Oxnard, but in Yuma, Arizona, where we formed a nonprofit. And we're active, the most active boxing program outside of Phoenix. So it's nonprofit, volunteers. And so we wanted to duplicate what we did here and get involved in the community. Really feel that our life's experience could benefit and rejuvenate ourselves to keep young in mind, young in spirit, is jump in the deep end, so to speak, and make a difference.
Everybody needs something to do to keep you active, especially when you get older. You know, you can just sit around and do nothing. So it's great that you've got something you're involved in that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. So our passion together as a couple is the boxing. We saw results of being volunteers. I became a grant writer, raised $325,000 in Oxnard, saved the boxing program. Then I had to move my business to Arizona, set up a maquiladora on the other side to compete with what was going on, everybody leaving, including Thailand as destinations for my competitors, India, so forth, and competition coming from China directly to my customers. And so, you know, when we arrived, okay, boxing, and we started being officials here and running all the boxing shows at Robinson. We sponsored and participated there, and we got national Batong Pinoy. That's the little kids boxing nationals here in 2010, and I enlisted some of our friends, her friends, and a couple of foreign guys who actually became officials here and participated. I guess I'm the first foreigner who was actually certified as a member of ABOP, the Alliance of Boxing Associations of the Philippines, which is their national federation. In the U.S., it's USA Boxing. In Mexico, it's something. Costa Rica, every of the 210 countries that have boxing in the Olympics, that's it. So, results. Now we just got back. My wife had a serious stroke in the States, 2 years over there, and her life was saved at the same hospital where Muhammad Ali was admitted and studied and treated in Phoenix, called St. Joseph Barrows. So when we came back, we had a Albano meeting last Sunday. We're going to be sponsoring free boxing at Robinson's Place, a beautiful indoor mall for the kids. It's all about the kids. Pro boxers, hey, it's a dangerous way to make a living, let me say that. The little kids, it teaches them self-esteem, brings out character, teaches them confidence that they can, deal with bullies. My older brother, 10 years, got on his knees with some boxing gloves, and we used to box. I learned at age 3. Jerry Quarry said he did. I met Jerry Quarry. He wanted me to get him a pro fight to fight George Foreman. I didn't know anything about pro, but I got him about with Jimmy Young, who was the second guy that George Foreman lost to and became a preacher, retired. Right. But this is the difference. Guys, I think that whatever your skill set, whatever you have in your heart, wherever you go, I think our purpose in life, is to share what we have, what we've learned, our wisdom, experience with our brain. And with that, well, for us, when we give our time and some resources and have others do the same, right? My brother said, hey, Fred, you could eat an elephant, but you got to eat it bite by bite. So that's my philosophy.
What advice would you give to a lot of guys that watch my channel that are considering moving to the Philippines? You've been there for a long time. You're married to a Filipino for how many years? You've been married?
I've been married 38 years.
38 years, to the same woman. And so what advice would you give to these guys that are thinking about coming over here and they want to retire, in the Philippines and start a new life here? And I mean, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think it's all about respect.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about RESPECT. Respect and being honest.
Yeah.
Hey, once anybody starts white lies, we know that the world, we wouldn't be alive if we didn't white lie. TMI, too much information.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about basic bad stuff that you build on lies.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, what background, if you're decent, and that's what my mom told me, there's two types of people out there. There's the decent, indecent. So when my neighborhood changed from 100% white to many African-dominated black people from the South seeking jobs in the North. She said, we're not moving. So I learned how to box at the same gym downstairs where Sonny Liston and Harold Johnson trained, the heavyweight, light heavy. It's all about honesty, and when you reach out for us, when you reach out beyond ourselves and our drama of our lives, and can make a difference in somebody else's life, that selflessness plays a big role in your trajectory of your life's journey for the better. For the better. And here in the Philippines, you have a chill society, non-confrontational. It's not like in Latin America, you can get very confrontational. Here, not so. So if you're respectful and you're honest, you'll go far to realizing. Hey, Mark is a perfect example. Mark didn't know anything about the Philippines.
No, sure didn't.
So, guy, you know, and I have a sign on my door of my office, and it's survival. The first thing you walk in is survival. Okay.
That's why I came here, to survive.
Yeah, survival is success.
Yeah.
And don't look at this guy or that guy, what you have, they have, envy. Hey, that's one of the deadly sins. Reach down and see what your life experience has gotten you. If you've made mistakes, you've shortcuts, got involved, you know, with decisions, and most of us have. Nothing's perfect. You know, we're human.
Yeah.
But if you have a good heart, you'll meet a decent woman.
That's
If you
true.
want to. And if you're strolling with your dog down the street, this happens the world over. If you strolling down the street with your dog and you stop and you pet your dog, you talk to your dog, and there's could be a very foxy woman coming your way. If you stop her, your chances of success of getting her phone number, taking her out for coffee or whatever, because she sees that you love your dog. You're capable of love. You're capable of something that women and everybody wants to be around someone who doesn't betray them. That's the worst that can happen, betrayal.
Yeah.
So, you know, I hang mostly, maybe the reason, Mark, that you haven't met me, a lot of my friends, not all, are Pinoy, or Filipino, and they're musicians. Okay, and I used to be playing with the pop, sitting in with the pop musicians here, very great talents here in the province, but they don't make much money.
Right.
The pay here is so bad that I wouldn't accept any pay to take away from a fellow Filipino musician. Right. Okay, it's just, I would feel bad, guilty. Okay, so, and I'm a percussionist. I'm not needed. If you look at a band, a bass, you know, you see the instrumentation's for. So if I'm the fifth or seventh or whatever, they have some horns. They're not needed, and the musicians don't make much money.
Right. So
I play with a lot of different groups, and then I found out about this jazz jamming session, probably in 2012-13, that was happening at a place called El Amigo, right off, you know, down around the block from the waterfront, and I started jamming with them, and there were one Filipino musician, spent 17 years, some in Europe, playing with hot bands over there, Thailand, Japan, Hong Kong. So they were good musicians.
Okay, well, you know, we've gone over 40 minutes here.
Wow.
Thank you so much for your, I think you deserve a part two. We'll have to do a part two with you and talk about some other things.
So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and sharing your story. I really appreciate that. A lot of wisdom there. And so everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.